Hey everyone, this is Krish. Hope you're doing well. I was going to do this video from home and then I realized it's like 72, I think, outside. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I figured I'll just step out for a bit. In this video, which I'm going to try and keep it real short, I just want to say that when you're getting started with something, it's very easy to get overwhelmed and get bogged down because, let's say you're building a React app, you're starting from scratch and you're not super familiar with it as a framework, and if you Google things up, you're going to find relevant references to Relay and Redux and all these other libraries, right? And you're going to be like, okay, what do all of these mean? I see that more often than not. I see good engineers get bogged down by a plethora of these other items that they don't have to necessarily worry about at that point of time. Once you start using that library or the framework, you'll start realizing its pros and cons, its shortcomings, pitfalls, and then you'll soon enough find avenues to fixing those problems, right? So if you use React, it's awesome, and but when it comes to state management, it could use some help, which is why there's something called Relay, which is also a Facebook library, right? But before you start using React and you haven't yet run into state management issues, it's going to be hard to conceptualize what Relay brings to the table. Or if you end up using something like Redux, which can be used not just with React but with other non-React frameworks as well. So my advice is just hit the ground running and get started, and there'll come a point when you need that help from some other library or an add-on, and you're going to look out for something, right? The code is going to present itself where you're like, hey, you know what, I feel like I'm writing more boilerplate stuff. Maybe the state management is not happening as well as it should, so how can I do this better? Agreed, you have to do a decent amount of planning so you're not surprised and you're not caught off guard, which I keep saying all the time. But there is still a fine line between not planning at all and over planning, right? Or over engineering. So don't, they say perfect comes in the way of good. So try not to over engineer. Keep your mind open, understand what kind of issues you might potentially run into. That having that awareness is good, but that should be all that you have to do before you get started. If you go for even when you're starting something from scratch, if you see that it's almost a week and you've not actually written a line of code, then to me that's a bigger problem than issues of this nature. Because sure, you can build a React app and you could use its native state management mechanisms and design patterns. When it comes a point where it's not just good enough, you can certainly look into Relay and Redux and see how they'll play a role, and you start adding them slowly but steadily, right? I think that's, in my mind, a more productive way to go, as opposed to doing all of the research and due diligence and keep doing it for weeks, and then realize, maybe this is not even the framework I want to go with. Because sometimes as an engineer you connect with something and at other times you don't, and it's not to say that one is good, bad, or ugly. I mean, they're all good, right? I mean, you can get your job done with the number of these frameworks, right? With Angular, with Ember, with Backbone, with React, with Vue or Rails or Sinatra, Java, .NET, it doesn't matter, right? You give a good engineer any of these, they're going to produce good code and a good design and a good architecture. So don't worry too much about it. Just have an idea, have a plan, keep that in mind. But that apart, don't get bogged down. Just get started, hit the ground running, so you start seeing results. And then if you like what you see, sure, keep going in the direction. But if you don't, you will feel it. You'll identify this, and by over time and by experience, it's going to some issues are going to stand out more so than others, depending on your areas of expertise. And you're going to be like, you know what, I don't like how this thing functions. Let me do something differently, right? But I think doing it and modifying it and going through that cycle is probably a whole lot more productive than just trying to think this out in theory, right? I think it's probably not the best way to go. Okay, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.